You ever wonder why certain files always seem to vanish the moment they're about to reveal too much? Why one day a high-ranking official looks straight into cameras and says, "The list is on my desk," and the next day another voice in the very same department insists there is no list at all? That contradiction alone should set off alarms, because when the truth shifts overnight, it usually means someone is working overtime to make sure you never see it. Within 30 seconds of looking at this timeline, you realize something is being hidden, and the deeper you dig, the stranger it becomes. This isn't just about paperwork. This is about power, secrecy, and the victims who were promised justice but keep getting served confusion instead.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Farage, thanks for being here, coming across the pond. I'm sorry to hear you're leaving the hearing early.
Well, there's not a question of leaving the hearing early, but I do have other things to do. Yes.
Oh, where are you going?
I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Where are you going?
It's not lunch, I promise you.
It's not lunch. You're not going to have lunch.
I don't think so, no.
No lunch.
Sad, isn't
You're
it?
meeting with the president?
I can't remember what the schedule is. It's possible.
You can't remember if you're meeting with the president.
I'm being very polite, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing this afternoon, but I can assure you that...
But there's the free speech hearing. You're not going to tell me what you're doing this afternoon?
Free speech is one thing, discretion's quite another, too.
Okay. All right, so you're leaving to have lunch with the president. So, Mr. Farage, I have a question. Have you heard about the Epstein thing that's going on here?
I have.
You have? What do you think about it?
I'm not going to give comment on anything happening in America. I'm here as a witness.
Perfect.
I'm here as a witness.
I'm
here as a witness for what is happening in the United Kingdom and in the European.
Perfect. Let me just go through it. So it's been 9 months, right, since we've been meeting in these hearings. We've not had Pam Bondi here, even though we have jurisdiction over the Department of Justice. Not Dan Bundy.
The gentleman yield.
Not Kash Patel. I will 100%. We'll go back and forth. Let me just do my thing.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to correct. Kash Patel's coming in I'll give you an extra 10 seconds. Kash Patel, the director of FBI, is coming in 2 weeks, and the Attorney General's coming in 4 weeks.
Fantastic. But still, we're not doing that this week. The week we're having votes on the Epstein thing. So, you know, Pam Bondi gives the influencers, these Republican influencers, a binder. It says Part 1 of the Epstein files. Don't know if you saw it. It was quite spectacular. The Attorney General then says the Epstein list is on her desk. Then DOJ issues a memo, says there is no list. Then, you have any questions about any of that? We've had no hearings on any of that at all. That, the list is on my desk, then there is no list. Then we gave binders to Republican influencers. This committee's had no questions on any of how that transpired at the Department of Justice. Then hold on.
Well, it sounds like you're going to in the next few weeks. So that's a jolly good thing.
Mr. Farage, we can talk soon, but not yet. Okay.
Right.
So then the president comes out and says the whole thing's a hoax. He blasts his own base. He blames Barack Obama. I mean, he hasn't been president for a very long time. Republicans then in committee vote against the release in the Rules Committee. Then Republicans refuse to go back in the Rules Committee because they're getting blasted for their vote, getting crushed by their own base. Congress leaves a day early. Then the administration sends the Deputy Attorney General to meet with Maxwell in jail. He happens to be Trump's former personal attorney. She says something favorable about the president. Miraculously, she gets transferred to a minimum security prison. The president starts talking about how he has the right to pardon her if he wanted to. The leaks to the Wall Street Journal then stop. We come back from break. We have the Massey petition. Comer does a document dump where 97% of these documents are already public. How long has he had those documents? Why hasn't he released them for the last 6 weeks? Does it the day of the vote? Then Republicans drop a non-binding resolution trying to kill the Massey discharge petition. The White House said passing the Massey discharge petition is a hostile act. Wow. That's a lot of distraction and deflection and misinformation. Wait, passing a discharge petition to release the Epstein files, the White House said would be a hostile act. Nope, we have no questions about that. But why? Why is it that we're spending so much political capital to keep this list from coming out? You think the list should come out? You think we should know the people who dealt with Mr. Epstein, Mr. Farage?
I thought I was coming to a hearing on free speech, not process.
Oh, well, listen, but here's the
And
good...
that sounds like you're discussing process.
No. Do you think the list should come out?
I have no opinion on it. I don't know
So,
at all.
so we have victims that were sexually abused by potentially people in power, and we don't know who's on the list.
I'm very happy.
Hold on,
to
Mr.
discuss
Fresh.
that
We
with
don't
you
know who's on the list. We don't
another
know.
time.
We don't know who's on the list. We don't know if the president is or is not. I'm not going to say he is or isn't. I'm just going to say these are weird behaviors. We don't know that there aren't other people in Congress that are on the list, right? We have no idea. Do you think the list should come out? You think people in power should be held to account for these victims who have been sexually abused and assaulted? You think the list should come out?
I think that I'm very happy to come to a different hearing where you talk about legal process.
Okay.
But
Will the
today-
gentleman yield for a quick question?
I will.
Were you aware that he has already called for the Epstein file to be released? It has been reported that he has called for it to be released.
Oh yeah, right here, just to refresh your memory.
Yeah, but it's, yeah,
I
yes.
happen to have this.
But that's not
How
what
random.
But that is not. Look, you could ask me if you like about
Do you agree
social
with
security
yourself?
policy.
Do you agree with yourself?
We are here to
you-
discuss free speech.
Hold on, it's awkward for your lunch after this? Do you agree with yourself?
No, it isn't at all.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious. This committee has jurisdiction over the
Gentleman's
Department of
time.
Justice.
Yeah.
Why have we allowed Comer to cover this up for the last couple of months?
As I said,
Why is this committee
I
not
think I
taking
said 6 weeks
jurisdiction?
ago that we will have the FBI director in, we will have the attorney general in, and we are doing that in 2 weeks. You can you can go through that whole list. That whole list, you can do whatever you want to do with, I got lots of questions for the FBI director, including the whistleblower who came forward and told him that Adam Schiff leaked classified information. I want to ask him about that as well as the issues you all want to ask him about. That's why he's coming, so we can ask all these questions and follow the process, as Mr. Farage just talked about.
Mr.
The
Chairman,
gentleman
I
from Virginia.
unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent?
I'd like to enter the political article into the record that Mr. Farage said the Epstein file should be released.
Without objection. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
I thank the chairman. I want to talk about censorship tools that are being used by Europe and protectionist measures that have major consequences for U.S. companies and free expression.
It all started with those infamous binders. Not official evidence passed through committees, not carefully redacted documents for public record. No, these binders were glossy, staged, and handed directly to partisan influencers. Think about that. Survivors waited years for accountability, Congress waited months for answers, and yet the first people to receive what was branded as Part 1 of the files were online personalities with cameras and political followings. What purpose does that serve? Transparency? Hardly. It looks more like a circus act designed to distract, a carefully choreographed performance while the real files stay locked away. And just as the binders were paraded online, the contradictions began piling up. On one hand, a statement, the list exists, sitting in plain sight on the Attorney General's desk. On the other hand, an official memo declaring flatly that no such list exists. Which one is it? Either someone is lying or someone is deliberately creating confusion. And when confusion becomes the strategy, it usually means the truth is explosive enough to threaten people in power. But the twists didn't end with binders and contradictions, because then came a quiet prison visit that changed everything. A deputy attorney general with deep personal ties to powerful figures walks into Ghislaine Maxwell's cell. What business could possibly justify that meeting? And more importantly, what happened right after? Within days, Maxwell, who was supposed to serve hard time in a strict federal facility, was suddenly transferred to a minimum security prison, a far easier environment. Survivors were stunned. To them it looked like a reward, not a punishment. To the public it looked like favoritism. And almost at the same time, whispers started spreading about the possibility of a pardon. What message does that send? Not justice, not accountability. It sends the message that the right connections can rewrite your consequences. And just as suddenly as that transfer happened, the steady leaks to reporters went silent. A drip of revelations that had fueled public debate simply dried up overnight. Almost like someone had decided enough was enough. But the maneuvers weren't finished. When Congressman Massey introduced a petition to force a release of the files, the department countered with a dramatic gesture. On the very day of a crucial vote, they released a mountain of documents. Headlines screamed thousands of pages as though the truth had finally been delivered. But a closer look revealed the trick. 97% of those documents were already public. Old clippings, recycled records, nothing new. Imagine waiting months for long-promised answers only to be handed a stack of duplicates disguised as revelations. That's not transparency. That's misdirection. a deliberate tactic to appear cooperative while giving nothing away, and just as the public began questioning the stunt, a statement came out that shocked nearly everyone. Officials declared that releasing the full files would be considered a hostile act. Let that sink in. Hostile to who? Survivors who were told to trust the system, citizens who want accountability, or the powerful individuals whose names might appear inside those pages. When governments frame truth as hostility, it signals only one thing: what's hidden is far more dangerous to them than what's revealed. And if that doesn't raise suspicion, nothing will. But beyond politics, beyond games of secrecy, lies the human cost. Every delay, every contradiction, every dismissal cuts into the fragile trust survivors placed in this process. Many of them waited decades, carrying trauma in silence, believing that one day their cooperation with investigators would expose the enablers who protected a predator. Instead, they see a circus of binders, vanished lists, staged document dumps, and shifting excuses. They hear leaders call the entire issue a hoax. Each maneuver re-traumatizes them, reminding them that their pain can still be sidelined when reputations are on the line. Protecting privacy should mean shielding survivors' identities, not shielding abusers. There is a vast difference, and that difference is being blurred deliberately. That is why oversight must be more than a word. It must be a practice. What would real oversight look like? For one, secure classified briefings where cleared members of Congress and staff can review sensitive files without public leaks. That ensures victims are protected, but truth still reaches the people tasked with accountability. Second, a chain of custody records showing exactly who handled these documents, when and why. No more lists that appear one day and disappear the next without explanation. Third, an independent review led by an inspector general or special counsel. Their job determine whether decisions to withhold or release documents were shaped by political interference. And finally, a carefully managed public release. Names of enablers, financiers, and facilitators should be exposed while survivors' privacy remains protected. That is not chaos. That is responsible transparency. So the question becomes, if these solutions exist, why hasn't a single one been implemented? The answer is as frustrating as it is simple: because pressure hasn't been strong enough. Institutions rarely act until the public forces them to. And make no mistake, those trying to bury the truth are betting that attention will fade, that the outrage will cool, and that survivors will be left to fight alone. But that doesn't have to happen. Because this story doesn't just belong to survivors. It belongs to everyone who believes accountability matters. It belongs to citizens who refuse to accept secrecy as a substitute for justice. And it belongs to the idea that democracy itself requires transparency. If the files remain locked, the precedent is clear: powerful people can escape scrutiny forever while victims are asked to wait. That's why public engagement is critical. Pressure your representatives. Ask them, when will you demand a secure briefing? When will you request a chain of custody log? When will you support an independent review? Support advocacy groups working daily to push this issue into the spotlight. Support independent journalism digging through flight logs, financial records, and court filings. These aren't empty gestures. They're the only tools that force institutions to act. Because history shows one truth: cover-ups collapse under sustained public attention, but only if that attention doesn't fade. This saga isn't just about one man's crimes. It's about whether secrecy exists to protect survivors or to protect the connected. It's about whether Congress will accept glossy binders as evidence or demand the real thing. It's about whether we as citizens let contradictions stand unchallenged or demand clarity. And it's about whether we're willing to keep asking uncomfortable questions until the answers finally come. Because every time secrecy wins, accountability loses. And every time accountability loses, survivors are left behind once again. So here's the bottom line. If you believe survivors deserve justice, share this story. If you believe secrecy should never outweigh accountability, make your voice heard. Pick up the phone and call your representative. Ask the 3 questions they don't want to answer. Support survivor-centered organizations keeping this fight alive. Because the story shouldn't end with binders on social media or officials shrugging about whether lists exist. It should end with a clear public accounting, with names revealed, with enablers exposed, and with survivors finally able to see that justice does not vanish when it becomes inconvenient. And if you want to stay updated as this fight continues, make sure you hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video so more people see what's really happening. Transparency doesn't begin with governments, it begins with us demanding it. The truth is not a hostile act, the truth is the only act that matters.